Hello, friends. Welcome back to another episode of I'll Call You Right Back podcast with me, your host. My name is Chad Medved. This is my podcast. Appreciate you being here this week. First and foremost, if you are a reader in the city of Pittsburgh, I am screaming it from the rooftops that I started a monthly book club called Yinz Should Read This. It is a book club that specializes, or not really specializes, but focuses in on the horror, thriller, sci-fi, and fantasy books. I'm a reader. I enjoy it very much, and there's nothing that I enjoy more than finishing a book and talking to someone else who read the same book about my likes and dislikes. So I created a book club. It is a once-a-month book club where we meet at a local bookstore called Woolly Bear Books in Carnegie, and it's a big group of us. We meet and we sit down and we talk about that month's read. The first book that we all read together was King of Ashes by S.A. Cosby, which was a thriller, and this month we are reading Let the Right One In by John Ajvide Lundqvist. I think that's right. But Let the Right One In, it's a vampire book, and we're ramping up into Halloween time. But if you're someone that likes to read and you want to be a part of a group of other like-minded readers, now's your chance. You could go to Yinz Should Read This on Instagram and click the link in the bio. There's links on how to RSVP for the next book club, and it is going to be Thursday, September 18th at Woolly Bear Books in Carnegie. We would love to have you. That being said, all the book clubs have been packed and sold out. So if you're interested in coming, please RSVP. It is a big help for me. And you could find all that information at Yinz Should Read This on Instagram. I always update on there, and looking forward for more people coming out. I was hesitant about starting this book club because I didn't know if anyone was going to join. I didn't know if anyone was going to come and hang out with me, but we've had packed meetings the last two times that we met. So very excited for the future of that. In addition to the book club, I have been keeping myself busy with a new entrepreneurial venture that I have taken on. So I started a business called Dowtone Productions. Dowtone Productions is a way to provide a need to all business owners and creators in the city. So think about it. If you're putting on an event and it's the day of, and you're going through all the motions, trying to make shit happen and make shit run smoothly, the last thing on your mind is pulling out your phone and documenting what you're doing. And, the events that you're putting on, those are, that's your life's work. That's what you're focusing on. That's what you want to put out into the world. That's what you want to showcase to all the rest of the people. So what I would like to do is become a hired camera gun for anyone that might need it. For instance, let me give you an example. Mike Medved is an incredible wedding singer throughout the city of Pittsburgh. I have been working with Mike last couple times where, he takes me with him to a wedding, and I just spend the night documenting him with a high quality camera that I purchased. Then I chop out some reels, I cut out some good videos for you to use for your social media. So I'm documenting your moments that matter most, and I'm providing you with the materials to, boost up your social media. And I'm pretty pumped about it. I've been working on a documentary in addition to this, so I've kind of fallen in love to the whole videography end of things, and I'm looking to do more things with that. So if you are a business owner, if you are an artist, if you're a creative, if you're an entrepreneur, and you need someone to provide you content for your social media, reach out to me. You could DM me at Dowtone Productions, or you could email me at dowtoneproductions412@gmail.com, and we could talk about what I could do to help you. Okay, now that I have exhausted all the things that I had to talk to you about, we are back with another great guest for this week. This week, I sit down with Brian Eaton, who is the co-owner of Grist House Craft Brewery in Millvale. Technically, there are multiple locations, but the original location is located in Millvale. So I've been, for anyone that listens to the podcast, they know that I'm not a huge drinker, but I'm well versed in the world of craft beer that we have in Pittsburgh. You know, it's nothing to bat an eye at. Pittsburgh has a great community of craft beer brewers and people involved in the scene. And Grist House has recently celebrated 11 years in business, which is an absolutely incredible feat. So I reached out to them, and Brian hit me back, and he came into the studio, and we talked all about the history of Grist House and the legacy that him and his brother-in-law slash co-owner have been building over the last 7 years, or last 11 years rather. His brother-in-law, now I want to pronounce his last name right. So his brother-in-law, well, his name is Kyle, but Mientkiewicz. Kyle Mientkiewicz. I'm sorry, Kyle. I hope that I pronounced that last name right. But Brian and Kyle are co-owners, brother-in-laws, doing great things in the city, in the craft beer scene, and they got some new and exciting things coming up. So Grist House opened a brand new location that is, well, technically it's going to open this weekend. Grist House Command, which is a new spot that will be on 301 Sergeant Messerschmitt Road in Oakdale, PA. It is a brand new brewery up there. It has a full kitchen. It has it's just an environment to go hang out with. It's a cool third space that is added to the roster that Pittsburgh has. You know, I'm excited to go check it out. They've been working on it for quite some time. They acquired this place, I think, even before COVID, but it's finally ready to go. So Grist House Command is going to be opening this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, September 6th and 7th, and it will be open on Saturday from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m., and Sunday it's open from 11 p.m. to 8 p.m., or 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. rather. But you could come there, you could check out all the cool stuff. Their new location takes place in an old Nike site that they refurbished and created this state-of-the-art brewery and kitchen all in one location. It has a observation deck where I'm pretty sure it's technically the highest point in the area. I'm pretty sure Brian said that, but it sounds like a fun time. I know that they have been putting in quite a bit of work to make this place happen. In my conversation with Brian, I found out that him and his brother-in-law, they built a lot of the stuff in the original Millvale location, and like these guys have been just working hard, elevating and expanding their business, and it was a really fascinating conversation. So I hope you guys enjoy it. I appreciate everyone coming back and listening as usual, and without further ado, episode 307 of I'll Call You Right Back podcast with Brian Eaton of Grist House Craft Brewery.
Telephone.
Hello? I don't know, like a Fresca or Liquid Death or something. Thank you. Yeah. Grab one yourself. Feel free. I like Liquid Death.
Yeah, they're good.
It's a little bit more appealing to the eye than just a plastic bottle on the table.
Exactly. And their marketing's killer.
Marketing's killer, and like the motive behind it all was really killer with the recyclable cans.
Yeah.
After I interviewed someone from the Allegheny Cleanways a few years ago, and it was like jarring to hear how much trash is just strewn about the city illegally.
Yeah.
So it's just like, if I could just not, I was having people in here and I was giving them bottles of water, and, some people that would be drinking water, they would rip like 4 bottles. So it would just be 4 plastic bottles.
Yeah.
I'm like, God, I can't be doing this anymore.
It takes forever to break down.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
It's like, that's going to be here longer than all of us.
Yeah.
But yeah, I appreciate you coming over in the middle of rush hour traffic.
Hey, no worries, man. All good.
You said you had an eventful day.
Yeah, we working on our new location out in Collier Township. So actually not too far from here.
Yeah, is it a Nike site?
Yes, it's the former Nike site. It's the command center for the Nike site, and so we purchased the property 2018. So it's been a while. COVID kind of slowed things down out there, trying to get architects and designs and contractors lined up and all that stuff. And so we actually started construction in earnest about 2 years ago, and we're like right at the the 10-yard line.
Wow,
we're getting close. So we're hoping end of July, early August to open the doors to the public. So hopefully brewing within the next week and all that. So it's like, it's every day, just cranking out there trying to.
You're in high gear.
High gear, yeah. Somebody gave me a great analogy. It was, you fill up a bathtub and pull the plug, and it doesn't look like anything's happening for a long time, and then as you get down to the bottom, that whirlpool starts, and we're right in the middle of that whirlpool.
Yeah,
it's like it's right before everything.
Trying to keep your head above water.
Right, exactly.
It's like, what do I got to do today? Yeah. That's crazy. I mean, originally the reason that I hit you up is because I reached out to you guys back in like 2018 whenever I first started this, or whenever I first kind of got hip to the beer scene around here. Yeah. Just because I knew you guys were one of the big names that were doing it right, and like you said, COVID kind of derailed everything. Yeah. And I saw that you were celebrating 11 years. Yeah. And congratulations, first of all.
Thank you, appreciate it. Yeah, it's been a whirlwind. I can't believe it's been 11 years.
Yeah.
Like I said, just picked up my boys off the bus, and I can't believe they're already 5 and 7, and like that's like time flies.
Yeah, time's flying.
Yeah, it's flying by, and I'm like, holy crap! Like these kids are getting older, and the brewery's been 11, so it's just the perception of time, and just how things just go by so fast when we're like right in the middle of it. It's like every day just cranking away, trying to make good beer and keep a business sustained and everything, and so it's just you blink and 11 years goes by.
Yeah. So. I mean, like, it takes all the respect to be able to have a successful business nowadays. Every day you see people closing their doors. So, 11 years in a game is not a small feat for anyone.
It's, I'm thankful every day that we're still able to do it. It started as a passion project. My brother-in-law and I were working for, corporate, like regular jobs, and
let's get into that a little bit, because I know nothing about you. Like I said before, I know of Grist House, obviously. I'm sure everyone in Pittsburgh knows of Grist House, and you were one of the first names that I heard whenever I started to learn about the beer world. I'm not someone that's like, I'm not a big drinker. I don't really drink, but I love the culture of it. I went through like a few years of interviewing people where I never had any brewers on, because like I never drank growing up. Like I probably had 20 beers my entire life. And I didn't want to have these like masters of their crafts in the studio and try to talk to them and sound like an asshole. Disrespect like your time and make myself sound like an asshole by not knowing anything. So I interviewed Josh Getzoff from the Penguins, and he was like, dude, why haven't you got anyone from the beer world on here? Like we have an incredible beer scene. So I took the next 6, 7, 8 months, and I kind of just like put myself through a crash course where I was just like trying all these different types of beers from all these different places, and I got a couple people on the inside that are close to the beer scene that kind of point me in the right direction. Mike Cottle, Buzzy Turek, all these people, and these are people that I'm asking, and your name is one of the places coming up of like just like absolutely stellar product and service.
I appreciate that.
But I tried the juice grenade. And I loved it. I really did. And
good.
It's and it was one where I was like, IPAs and stuff like that are an acquired taste, but I remember drinking that and I was like, God damn, just real good.
Our flagship for a while, and it's it really struck a chord with people. Being a hazy, and we started brewing that when hazies were becoming really popular, and that one just, it struck a note. People loved it, and they still do. And it's just, we think it's a really clean, approachable beer. And so I've had, we still are out there at beer festivals, still, I'm obviously promoting the brand and the product and everything. And that's one beer where even if somebody's like, I'm not an IPA drinker, that's one I can, pretty confidently say, well, why don't you try this? Give it a shot. And that, I can usually turn people around on it and turn them on to IPAs using, Hazeldeck Juice Grenade.
Yeah, you just said it's approachable, and that's like the best way to describe it, really, because, some stuff is like, kind of the word's not tough, but it's like, intimidating to drink because there's so much flavor and there's so much like, it's like aggressive flavors.
Yeah.
But the Juice Grenade was like very approachable. I loved it. I had and it's always one that like stuck in my mind. But yeah, so are you from Pittsburgh?
No, so I grew up in Erie County, PA, so a little town called Waterford, about 20 minutes south of Erie.
Okay.
Grew up there. Actually, my brother-in-law, my wife, grew up there too in Waterford, and so knew each other for a long time. We all went to Penn State, and basically after Penn State, my wife and I ended up down in D.C., and Kyle, my brother-in-law, was up in Cleveland, and my wife and I were doing the right out of college, fresh career. She's a nurse and working down in D.C., and I was kind of in the politics scene. I was working on Capitol Hill for a while, and then doing nonprofit fundraising and whatnot, and we, kind of realized we couldn't start a family or really, it's a very, expensive place to live. So we're like looking around like, okay, we want to buy a house. We're getting to that point in life, and we're just like, DC's not it. And so I actually came up to Pittsburgh for a bachelor party, and it had been a while, like growing up in Erie, you'd come down to Pittsburgh for like field trips to the Science Center and stuff like that, or to Pirates games and whatnot. And I remember Pittsburgh in the 90s, it was, still rough, steel town and whatnot. And my wife had family from here, and she had always been like, oh, we should, move to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's a great place. And I was like, I don't know if that's going to be for us. We were looking out at Denver and things like that, kind of moving out towards the mountains or something of that nature. And I came up to that bachelor party in 2010. And absolutely fell in love with Pittsburgh.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, even back then, I remember coming back from that and told my wife, I'm like, we got to move to Pittsburgh. I'm like, this place it's turning on, man. It's going to be a really hit place to be. It's going to be really cool here in a couple of years. I could just kind of feel it just being around the city and checking out different places. And she was like, hell yeah. She's like, let's go. And so she started interviewing jobs, being in nursing with UPMC and everything up here. I think within 2 weeks, she had a job offer, and I told my job down in DC, I'm like, hey, my wife got an offer. We're moving to Pittsburgh. I was like, I can keep working for you remotely, and this was back before remote work was, the norm almost. And so they're like, yeah, and, I was traveling a lot and everything anyways, and it kind of put me into closer to the territory that I was working. And so like, yeah, you can do it. And so we moved up here. It was basically within a month.
What year?
2010.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Damn. So that quick.
Yeah. Within a month, we ditched DC and moved here and moved into a little place in Blawnox.
Wow.
And
been here ever since.
Been here ever since. Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Love the north side, and, found a place over in O'Hara Township. And so bought that. And, that's kind of where the whole Grist House story kind of begins. I mean, I was doing some homebrewing down in DC, and when Kyle would come down and visit, we were, kind of homebrewing on the weekends, and then moved up to Pittsburgh, him being in Cleveland and closer, and he would travel down and just basically weekends in the garage, just brewing beer. We both kind of got this bug. We're like, we really don't want to work for anybody else anymore. I kind of had a goal to have my own business by the time I was 30. And so...
How old are you now?
41.
41 right now.
Yeah.
2010 is whenever you guys were homebrewing.
Yeah. Yep.
And now rewind a little bit more for me. So like in Erie, growing up, like what kind of idea did you have for a career?
Oh man, I grew up doing construction. My dad was a finished carpenter.
Okay.
And so I paid for college and worked through high school doing starting off sweeping floors and being a gopher and whatnot on construction sites. And so kind of grew up in the trades a little bit like that. And then went to Penn State actually for construction management.
Huh.
Which is...
What else were you into during like those years? Like, were you like a bike person, skateboard, music?
Sports. So played baseball.
Okay,
baseball, golf. So those are the kind of two sports I did through high school.
That's cool.
Yeah. Really.
And construction kind of took up the other end of it all.
Yeah, really. Yeah, so I was basically working when I wasn't playing sports and, helping out my dad's shop and things like that, doing carpentry, things of that nature. So really enjoyed shop class and everything throughout high school. And so kind of tied into working construction, with my dad on the weekends. And then in the summer, kind of pay for college, stuff like that.
Yeah. So going to college, you went to Barron for.
I went to Maine campus.
Or Penn State, Maine.
Maine, yep. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I thought because close to Erie, right? But
no, I kind of frustrated my parents because I went to I won a science fair competition, and must have been like 8th or 9th grade. I can't exactly remember when. And part of it was we went on to a state competition. It was held at Penn State, and so you went down and stayed in the dorms and presented your
cool
science project and all that, and stayed there and just fell in love with the campus. And so from then on, I just was set. I'm like, I'm going to Penn State. And
that's awesome.
My parents were like, well, you should do some backup schools or even the branch campuses. I was like, no, I'm only applying to Penn State. So I basically only applied there, basically put all my eggs in one basket. And they're like, well, what if you don't get in? I'm like, well, then
we'll figure it out.
Yeah. And luckily I got in, which was great.
You said construction management?
Yeah, construction management. Kind of felt like that was going to be my path. The foresight I didn't have was there's a lot of math in that, and I'm not strong at math. So
not strong. Well, I mean, like a brewer. I mean, like probably the math skills come in a different way later.
They do, yeah. So addition, subtraction, spreadsheets, things like that. That works. So you're getting an engineering, calculus, things like that. And I'm not that strong at it. So I'm like going into this first year of college at Penn State and like having to take all these math classes. And I love the architectural side and the drawing and the getting into
the creative
prerequisites pass, but the math was just hanging me up.
So did you go all 4 years?
Yeah, I went all 4 years at Penn State. So I switched majors my first year. I really liked writing. So writing was strong for me throughout high school and everything. And so found myself, I've looked around at, what else I would be interested in since construction management wasn't really going to be it. And so I decided to get into journalism.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So
what was like your goal at that point? Like what type of journalism appealed to you?
Print journalism. Yeah. So not really the
newspaper.
Newspaper. Yeah. So I wrote for the Collegian when I was at Penn State. Wrote for their sports section. And a little bit for a couple. I forget the other small paper that was around there, but just did a little bit of freelance journalism stuff for them, and so journalism, a little PR stuff got mixed in there.
That's cool.
Which was good. Did like a minor. I've always loved history, so I did a minor in history and a minor in sociology and stuff like that. And so kind of rounded it out. And then back then I graduated in 2006, and job markets were a little bit weak back then. We're unbeknownst to everybody, but 2 years later you'd have the market crash and all that stuff. And so DC was really the strongest city for hiring people.
Yeah.
And so that's where looking for jobs. So I was lucky enough to get an internship with Arlen Specter.
Wow.
PA senator. And so, I went into that, moved down to DC, did the internship. That
was 06?
That was 06. So.
And you stayed there till 10?
Yeah, stayed in DC till 10, but then continued to work for the company I eventually ended up with up until 2015.
What's like your temperament to like the beer scene at that time? Like whenever you're down DC, like was there a beer scene?
Yeah. Actually, DC had a really strong beer scene. Not a ton of breweries were operating. There's a lot more now than there were in Aslan, Blue Jacket, a few of the others. The great thing was there was a lot of great craft beer bars throughout DC, and I kind of got turned on to craft beer in college. Besides the Natty Light and the
what was the first beers that like you had that like stuck out to you?
So actually the kind of gateway beer for me, which everybody hates hearing, but it was actually Blue Moon. So there was a Mad Mex that was right across the street from my fraternity at Penn State, and they had a Blue Moon special, and that was kind of the first craft beer that kind of pulled me away from light domestic lagers.
What did you drink besides that? Anything that was at parties?
Basically.
Okay.
Yeah. That's not, it was prior to 21 years, like
the cost effective.
the Yingling and all that and whatnot. And
I feel like my brother, he went to Penn State Barron and then Maine, and then I remember him bringing like Blue Moons around too. Like I feel like that had to be like the first beer outside of like the core, Icy Light, Bud Heavies that I remember seeing. And I remember seeing like the summer shandies and stuff like that. That's interesting to hear that was like one of the first ones that stuck out in your mind.
Oh yeah, that definitely kind of turned me on to beer being more than just.
Did you always enjoy it? Like even younger, before the drinking age in high school and stuff like that?
Yeah. So we were always at like high school parties and stuff like that.
What was like your woods beer that you guys had?
Surprisingly for us, me and my group of friends, it was actually Yingling.
Really?
Which
that's not bad. I feel like that's a higher end.
Yeah, it was. I don't know how we had money back then.
Ours were Keystone Premium, and I think I think that's the reason that I dislike drinking.
I could do it
because drinking a warm Keystone Premium in a summer party in the woods. It's not like the.
It's a good way to turn it on.
Yeah, not the picturesque like sitting on a beach with a chilled Corona. But that was so funny. Like just watching kids struggle. Drinking these warm beers. So down DC, you said there's a lot of like craft beer bars and stuff like that, and not too many breweries. Like are you getting the bug to like go beyond of just being like a casual consumer?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, my good buddy and I, who we were living in the same house at the time, we both started getting into homebrewing more because like we were going out to RFD and a few other like really established craft beer bars in DC that were bringing in everything, Sierra Nevada, Dogfish Head, things like that, but also some smaller breweries from the West Coast, and then they're also bringing in Belgian beers and everything. And once I got turned on to Belgian beers and things, that kind of really opened up the palate, and we got this bug to like, well, I think we could do this at home and kind of make stuff that we'd enjoy drinking. And so we got into it and started making our own beers. We were always having house parties there, so we always had willing subjects to test out beers on and everything. And
what was like a first setup for you guys? Like how much were you making at a time?
5 gallons at a time, just in a big stock pot, down outside, and slowly, ramped up what we were doing. Added some, bells and whistles. But I remember the first time we bottled beer, it was like just a tedious process, washing all these bottles, and like we didn't want to go buy bottles, so we were just like saving the ones that we just used, and then sort of like soaking to get the labels off and like all this stuff, and like we did it once and we're like, never again, like we are never bottling, everything's going into kegs. So I built our first kegerator, and we bought some corny kegs and just kegged everything after that.
Wow.
So and then so that's why I enjoyed doing that too, besides the brewing side and run the business stuff. I also enjoyed like building draft systems, so I've like done that, installed a few commercial draft systems around town, stuff like that.
That's pretty cool. Did you have other people around you that were like doing home brewing, or were you kind of like the...
No, we're really the only ones, especially like kind of in our friend group. And back then, I'm sure there was homebrew clubs and stuff like that around. We just never really got involved in them.
Yeah.
Now up here in Pittsburgh, you have great ones like Trash and Trube that are, really strong homebrew organizations that get together and do different things. We didn't really have that in DC. Not to say there wasn't. It's just we never really sought that out.
Also, 15 years ago, I mean, the world's not as big as it is now.
No, yeah, and it's like, Facebook was a thing and stuff like that, but communication, the way to get in touch with people or find out about groups like that wasn't.
Limited.
It was much more limited at the time.
Huh. Yeah, so you guys get into that, then you move up here, and I mean, you're still just like ripping. Like, is this to the point where you're, is this just a hobby, or are you to the point now where you're like, hey, maybe we could like really figure this out? Yeah,
that was the thing. We were doing it in the garage, and we kind of joke. It got to the point where we needed to make more beer to satisfy all the people that kept coming to like all our friends and parties and stuff like that. And it's like, we're drinking all this stuff too fast, so we just need to make more. But it all kind of came together as, we wanted to start a business. The craft beer scene at the time, especially in Pittsburgh, was, in its infancy, to be honest. I mean, you had the late 90s where there was a bunch of kind of that first bubble burst for craft beer in the 90s, where you had a bunch of angel investment money kind of coming in, and places popped up. I think there was
around
in Pittsburgh. I think you had like 3 or 4 John Harvard's, Beer Hall or Valhalla Brewing.
I've never heard of John Harvard's.
Yeah, Steve Sloan, actually, who was a brewer over at Roundabout, Covens, he brewed at John Harvard before he went out west, and then before he came back to Church Brew Works. But
wow.
Yeah, so they were down on the Strip. I actually think there was 2 breweries in the Strip. It was John Harvard's and Valhalla. Somebody might be able to correct me on that, but
that's interesting to know. Like the late 90s.
Yeah. So and it happened kind of quick. I think like 99, 2000, like 3 or 4 of them shut down here in Pittsburgh pretty quick. But it happened all throughout the country. It was kind of this big wave in the 90s, and a ton of places opened up. But it was, I think, investment, people were basically dumping money into it. They thought it was going to be this like next big thing, right? Everybody was looking in the 90s for, the whole, internet.
A couple moves ahead.
Exactly, right? And so they thought like, oh, craft beer is going to be this huge thing. So they started dumping money into people that didn't know what they were doing. And it didn't really take off at that point. You had some really well-established brands that opened up like, Trogs, Victory, and those guys were doing it right. But a lot of places just kind of had people willing to give them money, and they jumped into it. And,
not really as many.
The customer wasn't ready.
Yeah.
And it kind of fell out. Fast forward a couple of years, and you have Scott Smith over at East End. He gets East End going. I think that was 2004.
Really? That's been around that long?
Yeah. I think he's, what would that be, 21 years now?
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's they've been killing it for a while. So
that's pretty wild.
Yeah. Scott probably wouldn't like me saying this, but, he's considered the grandfather of craft beer, I think, in Pittsburgh.
Got a hell of a pizza, too.
Yeah.
Hell of a pizza down at East End, too. I've been there one time for one of the half-ass beer shares. Uh-huh. And, I guess I'm not like, acknowledging as much, of the history that there is behind all these places.
Mm-hmm.
Like we go in there, and it's like me, for instance, like I'm walking in there, and I'm not a huge drinker. I'm not a huge drinker, so it's like I don't really know too much. I didn't know that was around that long. Like what other places were around? Like I know that like Church Brew Works has been around, but that's kind of like it was kind of like a different vein. But like when did like the other, like when did the boom happen here?
I would say between 2013 and 2014, I'd say was when it kind of kicked off. So when we opened up in 2014, kind of depending on how you look at the numbers, I think we were the 8th or 9th brewery, craft brewery in Allegheny County.
Jesus.
So
now there's what, over 50?
Yeah, I think 52 in Allegheny County. So, so you had Roundabout and Hop Farm opened up in late 2013, I think like September-ish, somewhere around in there.
Okay.
And then all in the same month of May of 2014, ourselves, Hitchhiker, and Brew Gentleman all opened up. So, when we got the idea to, start the brewery, it was 2012, so we kind of established the business and started looking around for property and everything. 2012, yeah. And at that point, you had East End, Church, Penn, Full Pint.
When did Gnome open?
Dancing Gnome opened in 2016.
Okay.
Yeah. So we were Kyle and I were, like I said, homebrewing. We decided to start the business. And so we were like, all right, well, he's living up in Cleveland and traveling down. We're living in Pittsburgh. And so we're like, all right, if we're really going to do this, we have to make a decision. Are we going to do it in Pittsburgh or do it in Cleveland?
Yeah.
And so we took a hard look at both cities, and Cleveland had a much more well-established brewery scene. You had Great Lakes, you had Fatheads was producing out of there. I think Platform was open at the time. There's a couple other, I think a few may close, but it was definitely, kind of looking at it, it's like, all right, there's a lot of great beer being made in Cleveland. And we looked around Pittsburgh, and like, besides, East End and Church and Full Pint and Penn, it's like there's no bigger players. There wasn't a ton of craft beer in Pittsburgh. And so that's why we're like, all right, we're gonna do it in Pittsburgh. So Kyle and his wife Colleen moved down here to Pittsburgh, and we started looking around for the buildings and whatnot. And it seemed like a few other people kind of had the same idea at the same time, right? It's like we were all kind of fostering and developing these ideas right around then, and looking for buildings and everything, and kind of all opened up within a few, basically half a year. Which, I mean, you went from, 5 5, maybe 6 breweries to 10 breweries within,
that's
almost
awesome.
doubled within 6 months. And then it's just snowballed from there.
Yeah, it's whenever I started, talking to all these different people, learning about how many were around, it's like, it's crazy. Unless you're like, traveling around specifically for these, you don't really have an idea on how many there are.
Oh yeah.
It's pretty wild.
That's the cool thing about Pittsburgh that I've always said is, Pittsburgh's this is one of the reasons I absolutely love Pittsburgh. It's a city made up of, small communities, small towns, right? It's, everybody's, a lot of cities you go to when you say like, oh, where are you from? Like you say Pittsburgh, like people say like the general region, right? Like I'm from Cleveland, right? But you talk to people from Pittsburgh and they're like, oh, where are you from? It's not typically Pittsburgh first.
I'm from Bloomfield.
Yeah. It's like,
Bloomfield, Millville,
Lawrenceville.
Exactly. Yeah.
They kind of name the little town they're in. And so,
that.
And people, they frequent their local businesses. They frequent their local bar. Like they have their local watering hole, right? And so it's ripe for breweries. And that's why Allegheny County has the most breweries of any county in Pennsylvania. And I think why that works is because, these entrepreneurs, these, folks who are opening up breweries, they're able to find a little community that they can basically call home. And then the people surrounding them embrace them. They're like, you're part of our community now. I'm like, oh, I go there because you're in my section of Pittsburgh, right? And so that becomes the local watering hole. I
love that.
Not to say it's replaced the dive bar, but it's kind of in conjunction with that.
It's another third space.
Third space.
Yeah, another third space for people to go and spend their time.
Yeah.
Even if you're not even a drinker, these places like you make I've been to Grist House numerous times, and even whenever I didn't drink, because you have such like a welcoming space down in Millvale. I mean, like that's like a cool location that you guys were in. You said you opened that in 2014.
Yeah.
And like what makes you settle in Millvale, and like where could Grist have been?
Oh man, we were all over the place. I mean, we even looked at property up in Zelienople.
Oh, really? That far out?
Far out. Yeah, we were a couple spaces in Penn Hills. Looked at some space in. There's a spot in Sharpsburg, I think, that we looked at. We were basically, we kind of had a checklist. It's like, all right, we need to find a building that could actually, support a brewery. So it has to have, the proper utilities, the amount of space for tanks, the 3-phase electric, gas, just this checklist, right? Parking lot was always high on our list, and so we just and then we had our budget, and so our whole thing was we kind of went into it thinking we were just going to kind of bootstrap this thing. We both we're working remotely for our jobs, making decent money, and we're like, all right, I think we can bootstrap this to a point where we can get it up and get it operational, work our day jobs, do the brewery till it gets to a point where it can support us. And so we looked around, and the building we ended up in Millvale was kind of always on our list. It just was out of our price range. And I remember went up home for Christmas 2012, and was up there for Christmas, and all of a sudden the price reduced on that building. It came into our range. And we're like, all right, we got to go check this building out again and see if it'll actually do what we want. And so went and looked at it again and made an offer, and the guy luckily accepted. And so,
what was that place before?
So originally it was a slaughterhouse.
Holy shit!
Yeah, so right along Gertie's Run there. So there was actually that was the main slaughterhouse, and there were several outbuildings. So it was built in the 50s, and it basically, the kind of history in that area is obviously steel mills and all that stuff, and obviously Millvale, that's steel mill town, right? But Washington's Landing used to be called Her Island, and then actually used to be referred to as Pig Island. And so there's train tracks, and that was the livestock dumping ground for the railroad tracks that came through. And so it was the holding pens for all the livestock and pigs and everything for slaughter. And so there's a bunch of slaughterhouses in that area, ours being one of them. And so they'd basically bring the livestock and pigs up from Hers Island, and that was one of the spots. And it ran as a slaughterhouse from the 50s to 76, I want to say. And then after the slaughterhouse shut down, a diesel repair shop went into it for probably about a decade, a little longer. And then the guy we bought it off of was Mientkiewicz Electric, which was based out of Millvale, and he used the building as basically his warehouse for, copper, electrical supplies, parked his trucks in there. So you've been there a couple of times. I don't know if you've never noticed, but the barbed wire on the fencing around by the creek and everything, all that was there prior to when we bought it because they had their trucks and copper and everything in there. And so
wow, I guess I would have never noticed that. If I was sitting there and I was looking at it, I'd be like, oh, why do they have barbed wire?
Yeah, that's we just never took it down. So so we just kept it there. So the whole thing was fenced in, and it had this that weird L-shaped lot.
I had no idea about the lore of the slaughterhouses and stuff down there. That's pretty cool to hear about.
Yeah, so all those expensive houses are built on. Yeah,
on that land.
On that land.
On that land, all
haunted by the
blood of my brothers down there. It's like Gettysburg down there in Millvale. Now, where does the name Grist House come from?
So when we got started, we kind of wanted to pull in basically kind of something from brewing, but also a nod to Pittsburgh and the rivers, and basically prior to Prohibition. Pittsburgh has a very rich brewing history. Actually, in Millvale, there was 3 breweries just in Millvale prior to Prohibition, and there was just like I said, ton of breweries in the area, and there was a lot of grist mills because of the rivers. So along the rivers, there was mills, and basically the water wheel mills, the cracked grain.
Yeah.
And so when grain's cracked, it's referred to as grist. And so a lot of those mills cracked grain for the breweries.
Wow.
And so that was kind of their nod to Pittsburgh was grist, because that's what the grain's referred to when you crack it for brewing. And then so that's the brewing, and also the grist mills that used to line the rivers in Pittsburgh. Prior to Prohibition, and so then the house is basically, because we're family owned and run breweries, so they kind of house a home, and to always try to make the place welcoming to everybody, and just a nice place. We always want it to be like you're at a friend's house, backyard, at a barbecue, hanging out,
welcoming environment.
Yep.
Man, that's cool. That's a cool origin of the name.
Yeah.
Was that always the name idea, or was there something else that it was going to be called?
There was a few other things we kind of working names that we kicked around, but once we kind of put that together and stumbled on that, that's what we ran with. So,
So you guys bought that in 2014.
We bought it in
2012.
2013. We basically closed on it in 2013.
2013, and then the build out, and you guys opened in 2014.
Yeah, got open in 2014.
Now, whenever you guys are like kind of figuring out what you want to do after you got the location, like how does that kind of come to you pretty quickly, or was that like a struggle? So
we kind of knew what the layout was going to have to be. So the kind of the bones of the building where we had to, kind of place things, that if you've been there, obviously, the original building, where you walk in, that deck, there's the one garage door that you kind of see, and the 2 man doors. Where the man doors was another garage door, and there was like a ramp that went down, and basically that was where they unloaded the animals. We actually still have, like, in the concrete, there's where the blood pit used to be, where they would like.
I gotta go over and look at it.
Yeah, look at it. You can see the outline of where it was. We actually still have the switch down the brewery with the sticker that said the blood pump.
Do you guys got a piece of merch with a pig on it?
No, we don't. We haven't gone that far yet.
You got to get one, dude. You got to do that. I would.
Got a nod to that. Yeah, that'd be great.
Pay some homage to the people that sacrificed it. That's cool. Now, was the I'm sorry to interrupt you, but like we were talking about things being very welcoming. It's like you guys got fire rings out there. You were like one of the first places that I distinctly remember, like, bringing in food trucks, pretty constantly. Yeah. So it was a cool vibe. Like, we would go out west and, travel out that way. And it was like more of a common thing to just like pull up on a city block and there would be like, a food truck park. Yeah. And, Pittsburgh had weird guidelines and regulations for so long. Yeah. So, you guys were one of the first ones that I remember like seeing these places at. Plus one of my, great friends, Matt Christie, is a long time staple at Grist House.
Yeah, we live Streets on the Fly.
Can't beat it.
Awesome. Oh no, it's amazing. 24K gold.
24 all day.
So that whiz wit. I love it. So.
That's what I mean. Like another great person. This is doing great things. Yeah. But you guys like did you always have that mentality of like that sort of like business model where you're like come in, there's fires, there's food trucks.
Yeah, I mean yes, but it kind of. Really grew organically. So if people kind of remember when we first opened our doors, kind of, like I said, the lot was an L lot, right? And so the building was tucked in the back. And so we originally got open with basically the deck, and, you know, we looked for buildings that had a parking lot. We figured we needed a parking lot. And so the front area was where you parked. We were able to pull food trucks in, but also at the time, because of the licensing in Pennsylvania, we actually had to have food available. And back then, because the food truck scene was kind of still in infancy, we couldn't really depend on food trucks being there all the time. So we actually started off with a hot dog roller and these things called Papa's peppers that we did. And so that was the food that we provided because it was required by the
Is it still required?
No, they actually changed the law in passed it in 2015, went into effect in 2016. They kind of changed the licensing.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, so now all you need to open a brewery is 10 seats and a bag of chips is what they kind of call it. As long as you are serving, it doesn't have to be hot food or anything like that. It basically has to, you have to have 10 seats, you know, some type of snacky type of food.
That's interesting.
And you can run off of a G license. So it used to be you had to carry a G license, which is a brewery license, and then also a GP license, which was a brew pub license. And so the brew pub license you had to carry, which meant you had to have the food to also be able to serve beer on premise. Like going back to Scott at East End, right? He started off with a G license, which meant he was only able to fill growlers. You couldn't drink on site. So he ran in that model for years until he opened his spot over in Laramie. But they changed that law, and so that kind of opened up for a lot more breweries to get open because you didn't have to worry about having a kitchen or, you know, really even if you don't want to have food trucks out front, you don't have to, right? And so you can basically just have brewing equipment, have 10 seats at a bar, and you can serve pints and all that. So we kind of saw some of those law changes over the years and stuff. So it's kind of been neat to be in that position for so many years to kind of see the different iterations of but back to your question. So we basically, you know, always wanted to be a welcoming place, had the deck and whatnot. And so we got open with that, had food trucks pulling in when we could get them, parking inside the lot. And then, you know, got open, you know, things are going great. And then October of that year, so we're open 5 months, and all of a sudden the sewers just start backing up, right? Like we're not sure what the hell's going on. Yeah, we have a guy come in, buddy of ours, you know, a plumber, and he's sending cameras down, fishing lines, all this stuff. What we didn't realize is, so when we bought the building, they had a bathroom with a shower, and that was really the majority of the plumbing, a sink. You know, they weren't using a ton of water on the property. Back in 2004, when the big flood came through, that hit Millvale. After that, the Army Corps of Engineers came in and dredged Gertie's Run and put up retaining walls and did all this work. What, unbeknownst to them and unbeknownst to us, is they drove rebar through the terracotta sewer line that drops down into the main that runs through that area.
Jeez.
That was our main, right? It was our lateral. And so that terracotta line was basically just slowly plugging up and backing up. And as soon as we went in there with a brewery and started putting a ton more water down and everything, it just backed the entire thing up. So we had to shut down completely for the entire month of October. And we had to dig the entire sewer line out from the front of our building all the way up down to Gertie's Run, and then 15 feet down in and re-tap into the main sewer line. So we thought that was it. Like we thought that was it for Grist House, right? Like,
so you guys were only open for a few months.
And then we had to shut down completely for a month to take care of that. And so while we're working on that, you know, we pushed through and figured we'd get through it and everything. We're like, well, while we're at this, we always wanted to have a deck or a roof over the deck. So we're like, well, we got everything tore up and people can't come in, so we put a roof on the deck. And so that was the kind of first improvement that we made to the space to kind of make it more welcome and for folks. And then, you know, got past that, got the sewer line back in, got up and running, and opened back up. And then that following spring, we started paving the front section of the lot, and kind of just expanded from there. Just continued to add more pavement. Eventually, just kind of pushed parking out. We were like, there's parking down the alley and whatnot, and it was becoming bumper cars in there. We were constantly every weekend people were backing into each other in the parking lot, and it was just it was a mess. So we're like, well, we can't really have parking in here, so we might as well expand the seating. And that's when we eventually brought in the beer trailer that we built. So we backed in a trailer, put in a cooler in that and a draft system, and served beers out of that for years, but added picnic tables, added the fire rings, and just kind of slowly.
I can't believe that you guys had to close down that quick after starting up.
Yeah, that was
insane.
Yeah.
Whenever you guys started, how many different beers were you doing?
So when we opened our doors, we started off with 6 beers, and then we just always kind of.
Are any of the 6 that you started with still going?
Yeah, Camp Slap Red. So that was actually from our home brewing days. That was it's called Camp Slap Red because we were going through a camping trip in West Virginia, and we wanted to take down a beer that kind of slapped you in the face with hops, and it was good for camping and drinking around a fire. And so that's the beer we came up with.
Falling asleep anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. That's actually a beer we took to a homebrew competition up in Erie that we won. We won that competition. It was one of the first ones we entered, and after we kind of won gold there, we're like, all right, maybe we might be onto something. Maybe this brewing dream's not too crazy or too far out there.
Wow.
So that's one that we've brewed off and on. Well, not really off and on. It's been pretty much a mainstay for a while. It may have taken a year off here or there, but we did a nice little, for our 10th anniversary last year, did what we called 10 years of beers, and we brought back some older brands that we hadn't done for a while. And so actually we kind of phased them out before because, people's taste had changed. They weren't selling as well, and so we retired them for a little bit. It was great to see bringing some of those beers back, how much people really enjoyed them, and now they're we're kind of brewing them more consistently than we had previously.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Would we were talking about Hazedelic Juice Grenade being like the first flagship beer. What year does that come into play?
The first time we brewed Hazedelic, I believe, was late 2016 or early 2017, but right around in there. Yeah,
couple years.
So,
2-3 years.
That was really when the kind of hazy kind of scene had kicked off. I mean, the Alchemists started brewing it back in their hazy. They were the first ones that they get the credit for kind of creating the New England IPA.
Put me on some of this game. What is that?
The Alchemist.
That's a brewery?
Yeah, and actually the owner of the Alchemist, John Kamish, is from Pittsburgh.
Really?
Yeah, and so he's the one. He started the Alchemist up in, I'm probably going to get this wrong, I want to say New Hampshire, but up in New England. And he started playing around with, going for that softer mouthfeel with IPAs, and that led to kind of the haze formation being in the beer and everything. And he kind of...
What year did you say this was?
I want to say we released that in 2008 or 2009.
Oh, so that's been around for a while, that style.
Yeah, that's kind of the OG for New England IPAs. Now, it didn't really catch on for a few years, and it was very specific to the New England area, and then it kind of started trickling out and really caught on kind of in Western Pennsylvania, I would say around 2015, 2016.
What about like the your, as far as like you being able to brew all these different types? Like first of all, how many different beers do you think you guys have brewed over the years?
Oh, I think we did a count. I think it's upward of 360 different styles.
Like that's insane. So whenever you start out, I mean, do you have like, are you guys kind of just like, throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks, or do you have like a plan on how you want to do it? Or are you kind of just following like the flavors that people were into at that time?
Yeah, I would say it's a good mixture of everything, right?
Yeah.
In the beginning, it was basically what everybody was doing. Is like you had to have a wheat ale, you had to have a West Coast IPA,
yeah, like the standards.
You had to have a brown ale, right? Like it kind of had the standards, and that's what you started off with. And I think even seeing a lot of breweries start up today, that's kind of, they follow the same model. It's like it's stuff that you cut your teeth with home brewing, and then when you kind of jump into the professional side, it's the styles
Yeah, and it's while you're still appealing to all these different crowds of people.
Exactly, and then you can start kind of finding your niche and what you're good at brewing and what you enjoy. And so we just started, getting into trying different beers, seeing what people like, seeing different things that we wanted to try. We kind of discovered sours kind of earlier in our history, and I think we do it a little bit different take on it than a lot of people do, the way we kind of approach sours, and I think they've really taken off. They're obviously kind of our second best sellers behind hazy IPAs. We're kind of known for our fruited sours, and I think we kind of do them in a unique way, and people seem to really enjoy them, and so it's always fun to experiment with that, fresh fruit and things like that.
Where are you guys like figuring out, how to do this stuff? I mean, in 2014, it's not as like, it's not as popping as it is now.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, are you just researching online and stuff?
A lot of books, just conversations with other people who've been doing it for a while.
That's cool.
Had some neat, good mentors and everything in the industry who'd give us pointers. And I got to give all the credit to my brother-in-law Kyle, the other owner, and our head brewer Sean. They're really the kind of mad geniuses behind it. I haven't been on the brew deck in quite a few years. I kind of gravitated towards the business side and the running of the tap rooms and things like that, and the wholesale. And they've been just, I think, absolutely killing it on the recipe creation and the fine tuning and everything like that for the beers.
Hell yeah. Now, I mean, like, you guys obviously, were, business as usual, just like marching along, and you obviously built the, brand new addition to the existing space in Millvale, which was, it's incredible looking in there. I mean, like, did that just come from like a need of having more space? Yeah.
So it's kind of a little bit of a long story. So on that space, there was a series of apartment buildings, and so they went up for sale back in 2016, and so we were in a good position to purchase those buildings. We kind of saw where things were going with like Airbnb, and we had this kind of grandiose plan to kind of turn a few of them into Airbnbs and have kind of brewery hotel kind of experience, create this thing, you're able to stay next to the brewery,
oh, cool.
Have a fridge with like beer stocked in it,
get wrecked, like walk that. 2 feet home.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So that was kind of the idea. And then, everything, just kind of, life in general around the business, all this stuff's kind of occurring and whatnot. So we were like, keep it on the back burner. The apartments were rented out, all this stuff. And so it was fine. And then
you guys bought that?
Yeah, we bought the apartment buildings. So we bought the apartment buildings. And then 2018, another flood hit Millvale. And so we got flooded out. Came in all the way into the brewery, came up a foot, and it got down into that building. Building was over 100 years old, an old stack stone foundation, and it just didn't do well, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, we got to make a decision. Like, do we put $500,000 into this building that's old to kind of save the foundation and keep it going, or do we just have to tear it down? So unfortunately, we had to make the decision to tear it down. So we were able to help everybody that was, renting at the time, help, place them in apartments and all that stuff. And so had to basically tear it down. And so we had what we called the pit for a while. So right next to it. So I'm not sure if you ever made it over during then, but that was like from 2018 till almost 2020.
Yeah, I feel like now that you mention that, I feel like I do remember that. Was there like fencing and shit around there?
So yeah, we had some orange fencing and whatnot. And then we had during the Pitt Penn State game, because as you know, we're a big Penn State bar. And so during the Pitt Penn State game in 2019, we had all the Pitt fans down in the pit and had all the Penn State fans up top.
Wow.
We held our 5th anniversary down there, a little brew festival. So
that's awesome.
So it was good. It was a good time. So a lot of people remember the pit. We just had a bunch of picnic tables and everything down there and whatnot. And and then COVID hit, and so we shut down for 14 months, I think. So we only did can sales to go during that time. We were gonna open up. Was that Father's Day? I think it was of 2020. Like 3 or 4 months after the pandemic was declared. Everybody's like, all right, they're going to lift, some of the bans. You could have outdoor seating, that things are going to kind of start working back to normal. So we, started prepping the space to do outdoor seating, figured out how we're going to serve people safely, do the whole thing, and then had it all prepped. And then I think the next day they're like, nope, the curve didn't flatten and all that stuff. And they're like, we're going back to what it was. And so after that, we were just like, you know what, like the to-go stands are going great. People are, coming in, buying 4-packs, buying cases, and that was a beautiful thing. Like the amount of support I think a lot of people gave local businesses.
I feel like I remember. Was that during the time whenever you guys did a couple of those with like Turners? You had like shipping container with like just beers in there,
just giving out. Yeah, so that's when we did the utterly baked and the utterly like the chocolate milk inspired stouts. And
I couldn't remember if that was COVID or not, but I remember like going there and it was just a line, and then pulling up, grabbing your shit, and then getting out of there.
Yeah, well, we had done it before that a little bit, but then that was some of the beers that we did, during the pandemic. But we had the trailer kind of out front and was able to do the beers to go. And so since we were, didn't really have anybody on the property, we were like, well, we always talked about doing something with that space. And with that pit, right? And it's like, well, the biggest complaint kind of people always had about our original space was the bathrooms, right? Like it was basically 2 bathrooms in the building, and then we were utilizing porta-johns, and that just wasn't ideal, right?
Yeah.
And didn't want to. It wasn't a long-term solution. So like, all right, well, we need to put a building up that, we need more bar space, we need bigger bathrooms and all that. And so that's when, since we were shut down, that was kind of our COVID project was building.
So that started in 2020.
Yeah. So.
And when did that open?
We opened it in 2023. Okay. April of 2023.
Yeah. So. And in that time, of you guys building that expansion, was that the first time I saw about you guys doing the Nike site location?
Yeah, we bought the Nike site location in 2018. We had announced that we had purchased it. We did a ton of demo in 2018 and 2019, just kind of getting it down to just bare walls, because after the Nike program shut down, the military continued to use the base, but that command center turned into basically an administrative building. So they just put in a ton of drop ceilings and partitions and everything like that. So we basically just worked on gutting the building and everything, while we were also getting architectural plans together and stuff like that. Pandemic hits. We kind of we're shut down. We decided to put the other building up. So really put the Nike site, project on hold for a while there.
So let me get like a timeline of this. Yeah. So you guys had the Millvale location. 2018, you bought the Nike site location. Mm-hmm. Was that just for a second location, or did you want to move there?
So we had basically in 2017, we realized, we are at max capacity in Millvale.
Outgrowing Millvale.
We can't make any more beer in Millvale. And so we started looking for a property where we could put in a production facility, bigger production facility.
Okay,
and we found that, that building and, got it for a great price. We knew it was going to be a big project, but we also knew it was what we needed to be able to continue to expand and grow. Luckily, I don't know if it's luck or just whatever, we weren't able to get it open prior to the pandemic, because I think if we would have put that much, investment and everything, and then the pandemic hit, I think that it could have been,
it could have been terrible
move. Yeah. So, the pandemic, being able to put that new building up in Millvale, really, anchor that, grow the brand through, what we were doing there, allowed us to then, once the kind of pandemic passed and, things kind of returned to normal, we were able to refocus on getting this Nike site project going.
So, just to kind of put it into perspective, what kind of system do you guys have down in Millvale? Like you said, you can't physically make more beer down there, really.
So we have a 15-barrel system, and so that with we have 4 60-barrel. We have 2 60-barrel fermenters, 2. Why am I blanking here? 2 60-barrel fermenters, 2 30-barrel fermenters, 2 15-barrel fermenters, a 15-barrel bright, and a 30-barrel bright. And so
that's at Millvale.
That's in Millvale, yeah.
So, are you? Is the Nike site place? Is that do you it's going to be bigger, obviously?
Yeah. So out there, we're putting in a 30-barrel system. So basically, doubles the brewing capacity side, and then on the fermentation side, we already have 60s and 60-barrel fermenters and 30-barrel fermenters out there. So. Give you a perspective, right now we're able to do 2,500 barrels of beer a year. Out at the Collier site, we could potentially do up to about 30,000 barrels of beer out there.
Wow.
So we're obviously planning on slowly growing into that. That won't be right off the bat. But that's the ability we have out in that location.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I mean, you guys being down there, obviously, things are kind of moving smoothly down Millvale, and you're kind of finishing off the Nike site. Is that going to be another location, tap room, food, all that stuff as well?
Yeah, we're excited because it'll be our first kitchen that we're running. So it's going to be production facility, large tap room, full kitchen, event space. We also have a small corporate event rental space.
Oh, cool.
Big decks, big, large first floor deck, and then we also have a second floor deck and an observation deck, because it's on one of the the highest points in Allegheny County, and so from there you can actually see downtown. You can see the steel building.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so it's an amazing view out there, and so we decided to put the couple decks up there, which is going to be really neat. Along with like what's that?
I'm sorry for how'd you guys come across this Nike site? Like, why did you guys end up with that place?
Well, we were kind of just cruising LoopNet, which is a commercial real estate site, and Kyle came across it. He was like basically looking at it on Google Maps. He's like, "Oh, check this out." He's like, "It's an old military base," and like we were kind of checking it out from Google Earth and kind of doing some measurements because there wasn't a whole ton of information on it, and kind of got a rough calculation of how big it is. And we're like, "All right, this could be kind of cool." Like it looks like the ceilings might be tall enough to fit some bigger tanks in there or whatnot. And then
that's sick.
Yeah, we went out and did a tour of the place, and walked around and just fell in love with it. We were like, especially when we saw the view, like we went up on the roof and kind of looked out and we're like, holy crap, this is really, really.
And when is the goal to have this place open and done?
Hopefully within a month. So I'm not sure when.
Pretty quick. Yeah, this might be open.
Yeah.
I think that this will open probably like beginning of August, maybe. End of July, beginning of August.
Okay, might be right around then. Hopefully.
Yeah, might be right around then. I'll put it in the description if you're listening.
Yeah, exactly. Subscribe to the newsletter, get all the info. Yeah, dude, we're super excited. So it finally gets us the production facility we're looking for, plus the just another big tap room. It taps into a whole nother customer base. I mean, we all know yinzers don't like going through tunnels or crossing rivers, and so Millvale will always be home. It's right next to the city. It's easy for a lot of people to get to, but yes, we have a ton of fans out this way, and so in the population growth out here, it's just going to be, I think, a great place for people to come out and get a beer.
Absolutely. Are you guys just doing local distro around here now?
Yeah, so really we're just distroing inside of Allegheny County purely because of the amount of beer we're able to produce. So we've just kind of been stuck.
That seems to be like the through line of any people that I've talked to, like even like Adam at Trace. I had him on, and like he was basically saying there's so many people just within the the area that love all of the craft beer that like you don't really it doesn't make it outside of the area.
No, not at all. And so we were lucky enough back in 2024. 2024 we were able to open a location up in Butler. So that was technically our second tap room. So that's in conjunction with.
There's another one?
Yeah, we have 3 tap rooms right now, and then Collier will make our 4th.
So you have Millvale.
So we have Millvale, and then 2024 we opened up at Freedom Farms. The King family up there, they have their farmers market, their farm to fork kitchen, and then inside of that we have a tap room inside of their building. So that's right off of Route 8.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that's been open for a little over a year now. They're awesome people to work with. The food they make is absolutely killer. All farm to fork, locally sourced stuff. The food's great, and then we have our beers on tap there. There's corn cribs. There's a greenhouse you can sit in, rent out for private events, things like that.
Wow!
So it's really neat. Yep. So been doing that, and that's been great. And then we opened up in February a spot over in Saxonburg. And so that's in conjunction with our good friend K1, who has a restaurant called Polka by K1. So it's authentic Korean food. So,
jeez,
absolutely. Yeah.
I feel like I didn't even know about those other 2 spots.
So
I'm like, damn, I'm a terrible journalist.
That's all right, man. That's good.
Yeah, I'm glad to know about that. Yeah. No, that's neat. Wow. So, I mean, like a lot of potential, a lot of stones left unturned with this new spot up there.
Yeah, exactly. And so that was great because it kind of introduced us to the folks up in Butler. So a lot of people knew us up there, but to make the trip down to Millvale or even to find our beer up in Butler County is kind of a little tough because we don't really distribute up there.
Got to be exciting to be able to kind of tap into the world of food.
Yeah,
that'll be fun too because like a lot of the breweries around here, they all do their own way of food, and it's they're pretty much all good. So it's always exciting to see the other breweries that
we're excited to get that going. We put in a really nice state-of-the-art kitchen, and so I think we're going to be able to crank out some really good stuff that'll go well with our beer. So we're always looking to make. We've always focused on the beer being of the highest quality, approachable, and always having stuff on the menu that somebody can find something they're going to like, right?
Yeah.
So not trying to pigeonhole ourselves into only like one particular style or something like that. We always try to have a breadth of things. So it's always a welcoming, like no matter what type of beer you like, or even if you don't drink, we do mocktails and different cocktails. And so some non-alcoholic stuff. And so being able to do that with food too, I think would be great. Really focus on, quality and approachability.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I usually ask people like what their goals are, but I mean, you kind of are just, you're in the thick of it right now.
We are, yeah.
Goals are to be able to get this place open, get it running smoothly.
That's the goal right now.
Be able to step back and take a breath, I'm sure.
Yeah. It's always funny. It's like you build these things, and then I was joking, then the actual work begins. Yeah. Now you got to run the place. Now you actually got to make it successful. Like, building it's one thing. It's
I like the bathtub analogy because right now, it's like people were probably like, what the hell's going on up there?
Yeah.
And you're just like,
doesn't look like much. Yeah.
I'm struggling, right?
Exactly.
I'm trying.
We're very hands-on. Like Kyle and I built the new location in Millvale all ourselves. So we built the whole thing, and so that's why it took so long. But because we like doing things ourselves, and so it was a little odd to give this project to a GC.
You guys are doing this like this deck and everything.
So not the Nike site.
Yeah,
so that we actually.
Yeah, but I'm talking about in Millvale though.
Yeah, we built out the whole.
I guess you grew up doing it.
Yeah, so the original building, we did all the construction in there.
Jesus.
The deck, the roof, and then the new building down in Millvale, we built all of that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Thanks. Yeah.
Jesus. That's a whole different side of you.
Yeah.
So you were like, oh yeah, I was just a gopher, and I'm like, yeah, this dude's just picking up shingles.
Yeah.
You're like, I built that building down there. It really is incredible. Like the location looks great. I'm excited to see the new one.
Yeah.
It sounds cool.
And we're really looking forward to kind of diving into the history. Like I think a lot of people don't know kind of how strategic Pittsburgh was during the Cold War, and basically how much infrastructure and everything, the military put into here, basically with the missile sites around the city, just this command center. And so we're really looking forward to telling that story.
Yeah, see, like I would have never even known about all this stuff, but my high school, Elizabeth Forward High School, we used to do like our football camps, camp in air quotes. We would walk up this hell of a hill, and it was a Nike site at the top of the hill, and we would be running plays and shit up there in this like, this grass with this unlevel field, gopher holes and shit. We had like some crazy ex-Steeler as a football coach, so he would be like, he'd just be
doing
like,
suicides.
We're out here roughing it, people were just like, up there in the trenches. That's the first time I ever heard about a Nike site. So whenever I heard you guys had that location, I was like, that's pretty cool. Like leaning into the history of it all. That's always, I don't know. Nowadays, that's what I love about it. If people talking to like these people about what the buildings were beforehand. I love learning about all that stuff because we have such like a rich history. But okay, so I mean, you guys are, ripping down Millvale. You got the other two locations that are ripping. You guys are in the tail end of opening the Nike site. What do you do to keep, like, what do you do when you're not, living in the world of beer?
Raising my boys and trying to be a good husband.
What other kind of stuff? Like, what other kind of like hobbies do you have that don't involve beer?
I really enjoy nature and getting out and hiking. So I usually do some pretty big. I try to get out at least once for a big hiking trip if I can.
That's cool.
The past couple of years have been kind of in flux, hoping to maybe pull one off this year. But so that's usually try to get out for some hikes, stuff like that. Kind of got into mountain biking a little bit, but.
Dangerous.
So it's like just
scares
trying to take
me.
it easy. And
people
then,
ask me because like I kind of got into I bike a lot now and I just people were like, when are you gonna get a mountain bike? I'm like, I'm not trying to break my damn collarbone immediately. I'm clumsy as hell. First week I got my bike. I tell Cotto, I'm like, dude, I got this bike. It's beautiful. I'm ripping out the trail towards Kennywood, and like I have a group of people behind me, and I look behind me and like I start trailing off the trail, and my wheel falls and I flip over the handlebars, and I'm I'm good on a mountain bike.
Yeah, exactly.
I just want to be cruising. I don't need to be like downhill, just making sure I don't hit a rock. But that's cool though. I mean, you gotta have a way to separate work sometimes.
100%. Yeah, try to get out on the golf course whenever I can.
Yeah, you guys got some good merchandise. I saw the golf merchandise you guys just put out too.
Yeah,
golf is you guys are killing it down there. I'm a fan of it all. I really am.
Yeah.
Okay, so you think there's anything that I forgot to talk about as far as Grist House, or are you ready to get to the ending segment?
Well, let's do the ending segment. I think we covered a lot of good stuff.
I feel like I ask everyone, I'm like, is there anything I missed? And you're like, dude, it's like my entire life's work. And you're asking me that loaded question. Like, is there anything that I forgot?
Yeah, this is good.
Okay, so ending segment that I do with everyone is an ending segment called Desert Island Questions. Okay.
All right.
So Desert Island Questions, whenever I give each guest 3 categories to take with them on a desert island, use until they starve to death and die. First category is movies. So if you're like on an island and you have like a little TV and for some reason you got 3 DVDs for the rest of your life, what would they be?
Oh man, 3 DVDs. Kingdom of Heaven.
Okay.
Black Hawk Down. And Super Troopers.
That's a good variety.
Yeah,
that's a good variety. I love Super Troopers. I recently just seen on TV that the second one, was like out and it was available for free to watch. And I was like, man, I got to watch this, but I just can't. I just haven't pulled the trigger.
I had high hopes for it. Not to spoil anything. Yeah. It's good. It's worth a watch.
Worth a watch.
But don't set your expectations high.
Okay. Safe. Okay. So second category. Do you read?
Yeah.
If you had like a couple books that you loved over the years.
Oh. Well, because I'm almost done with The Wheel of Time, I'd have to take the last book because...
Wow. How many books are in there?
14.
And they're thick.
They're thick.
Bricks.
So I'm getting into 13 right now. So I have to taste because I got to finish the series.
When did you start?
Oh, God. 3 years ago.
That's pretty good, though.
Yeah.
I mean, like each of those are what, like 600, 700, 800 pages?
Yeah, they're tomes. Yeah.
Wow. Now, do you enjoy it as much as you thought you would?
Yeah, oh, yeah. Okay. I love it. Yeah, it's great.
Okay, so I'll give you that whole series. Like, what if you had to pick something else?
All right. Man, there's just so many good books I like. That's why this one's tough. The Godfather. I just always love that as a classic. And then if I get one more.
What about a book growing up that you enjoyed?
There's I got a Rolodex going through my head. I was which one would I want to reread multiple times?
Whenever I ask people that, I think about this, and I think if I had to pick anything from me growing up that I really enjoyed was Watership Down.
Oh yeah, that's a great book.
Absolutely insane.
Yeah.
I just bought the graphic novel. I gotta rip through it, but there's a lot of good books.
There is. That's
Wheel of Time though. That's a commitment.
That's a big one.
Yeah, that's a good one. I was like, I finished I had to read the Harry Potters, and
okay.
I'm just getting into reading.
Yeah.
And I finally, this year, the beginning of the year, I was like, I just got to get them off the list. Yeah. So I committed to like a month and a half and read all of them, and I was like, damn, that was like a feat.
Yeah.
But 14 books of the Wheel of Time.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Well, I do have to go. I guess I'm considering them different books, but they all are one book. So Lord of the Rings, the whole trilogy,
that's on my list. I got to read it.
Oh, it's great.
You're a pretty big reader?
Yeah. It's always my before bed.
Downtime.
It's the only way I can shut the brain down at night. So.
Absolutely, dude. Are you were you ever, by any chance, a D&D player?
No, never got into it.
I just started reading these books by Matt Dinneman. All those ones right there. It's called Dungeon Crawler Carl, and for so long I I would look at the cover and it kind of sounded corny, but the premise is like there's like an apocalypse that happened and this guy was outside trying to like get his cat that got outside, and they got pretty much put into this like dungeon, and it's like a big. You ever see it's almost like a Squid Game type of thing. It's there's like multiple universes that are watching these like humans and all these people try to like fight it out, life or death.
Oh, that's kind of cool. Okay.
Dude, it was. I'm absolutely blown away by how much I enjoy it. But it's fun read, brainless shit.
Yeah. That sounds
but it's good.
Yeah, nice.
Okay, third category. 3 CDs.
Ooh. Traveling Wilburys. I'm gonna forget the name of the actual album.
That's all right.
Original. Their
artist is good.
Yeah. Traveling Wilburys, just a collection. Sturgill Simpson's Made of Modern Sounds of Country Music.
Real good.
And Audio Slave's first CD.
That's a good variety.
Yeah.
That's a good little variety of everything. Sturgill Simpson, Audio Slave.
I like Chris Cornell a lot. It was R.I.P.
R.I.P. Okay, so third to last question. What's the best concert you've ever seen?
Pearl Jam at Penn State in 2004. I worked at the Bryce Jordan Center security, and I got signed on stage guarding the cooler and the guitars for Pearl Jam.
That's wild.
So, and that was when they recorded, that was the last stop of their tour, and they recorded the entire concert, and at the time it was their longest ever performance that was also recorded. And they basically did their normal 2.5 hour set and then played for an additional, I think, hour and a half. They basically ran through their entire portfolio and then just started taking requests from the crowd and just playing. And there's
just on stage,
just on stage the whole time. Just
wow.
The guys are coming over grabbing beers. That was by far the best concert. I think. They don't think they stopped playing until like 1:30 in the morning.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
It was a cool concert.
Yeah, I bet that'd be a cool concert. Okay, third to last question is the death row meal. So, death row meal, you get an appetizer, a main course, and a dessert before you're put to death. What would your last meal be?
Ooh, okay. I'll have to come back to the appetizer.
Okay.
But ribeye steak with risotto, and like a cowboy butter on the ribeye steak. Dessert would be probably
It's
cheesecake. Like
probably the most
New York
picked
style cheesecake. Yeah, cheesecake.
Probably the most picked answer.
Yeah,
it's surprising.
Yeah, okay.
But I think that's probably the most picked answer on here. It's just like some cheesecake.
Yeah,
which is a good answer. Yeah. It's not a bad answer at all.
Just something simple. I mean, you can't. Yeah, it's a nice. Not too overwhelming. So an appetizer, that's a tough one.
Appetizer, yeah. You want to know what the most picked is on here?
Yeah,
a cheese stick.
Cheese stick, okay.
Dude. I've had. I think you're going to be like episode 308, maybe.
Yeah, okay.
And I think cheese stick got to be the most picked answer, besides for like a steak and a baked potato.
Yeah.
But like a cheese stick, a lot of people pick them.
Yeah, I mean that's not a bad choice.
Not a bad choice. I ain't mad at that.
Now I'm corrupted at the with the cheese stick.
That's all right. I mean, I'll give you that one. I'm not.
Oh, you know what? A good breaded zucchini plank.
Amazing. Yeah, that's a good anscer.
Yeah, I love good bread zucchini.
That's an underdog for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, good answer. Okay, second to last question. You're getting ready to go on a road trip or a long hike in your case.
Yeah.
You can go into a gas station and pick one snack. What is it?
One snack? Goldfish.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know. Out of 300 people, I don't know if maybe one or two have ever picked a goldfish.
It's like my go-to hiking snack.
I don't know if I've had a goldfish in like the last 20 years, maybe.
Oh, they're great.
I'm going to have to get them.
Goldfish.
He said just pop them.
Yeah, that's great.
I'd say the most picked on here is beef jerky, maybe.
Yeah, I could see that.
But that's a good answer. Yeah. Okay, last question. If you could have a conversation with anyone alive or dead, who would it be and why? And if you could, forego a family member or loved one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I hate when mind goes blank on these things, right? It's like instantaneous. Like,
it's hard. To be fair, I could tell people this ahead of time.
Yeah, just look at a little thought. That's all right.
It's just like shit. People, my idea is like, what's popping in your mind?
Yeah.
But then again, nothing pops in your mind.
No, that's
overwhelming.
Blank, yeah.
I mean, people will pick fake people on here. Like some people pick Randy Marsh from South Park. Some people pick wild shit.
I would say Teddy Roosevelt, mostly because of the. I'd like to know his inspiration behind establishing the national parks and like the,
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a really good answer.
Yeah. Kind of like, the process for like, all right, like, there's all this wild land.
Yeah.
And how do you go about preserving that and how are those choices made and like pushing that whole, saving, land for public use.
Yeah.
Plus, after I'd like to know more about the River of Doubt, which actually would be a good desert island book. River of Doubt.
Of Doubt.
Teddy Roosevelt's trip down the Amazon. There's a tributary of the Amazon River that was never explored that he took a expedition down after he was done being president. Actually, he caught he caught tuberculosis. The sicknesses he caught on that trip would eventually killed him.
Damn, I didn't know
lost
that.
his son. On that
trip down the river?
Yeah, it was basically his canoe trip. They were exploring. So it's called River of Doubt, I believe.
River of Doubt
is the book.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah, it's a really good, if you're into history and stuff like that.
Yeah, so. I'd be into that. That's a really cool angle to pick for learning about the national parks and everything. Hopefully we still got them in a
exactly.
It's fucking wild out here. But okay, so I think that's a great answer. Now I have to look into that now, and the book sounds very interesting.
Really good.
That's cool. Okay, now dude, that you're pretty much it. That's you're a podcast guy now.
Okay,
yeah, cool. I think that was great.
Awesome.
I appreciate you coming over and telling me the life story of Grist House.
Yeah, I appreciate you having us. I always love talking about it, and so it's obviously our life's passion, and we love making great beer and love Pittsburgh, and we always set out to make great beer for the people of Pittsburgh, and hopefully we're doing that.
Yeah, man, I'm excited to get up there to the Nike site. Maybe it's open right now while people are listening to this.
Could be, yeah.
Make sure you go to the Grist House Instagram and check.
Yeah, exactly. Double check, but it should be.
Yeah. But while we're on that, take a second, promote everything you got, and just go over the whole thing.
Yeah. So obviously Grist House. We talked a lot about Millvale, so come check out our flagship original location. But hopefully, when you're hearing this, our new spot up in Collier Township at the former Nike Missile Command Center is up and operational. I'm repping the shirt too, so maybe the timing works out well. So that's going to be called Grist House Command. So we'll have a full kitchen, big tap room. Tap room actually has 4 different bars in it, rooftop decks, observation deck. Going to be future event space that will hopefully be hosting live music and things like that. And then, if you're ever up in the Butler area, check out our spot at Freedom Farms and our other location in Saxonburg with Polka by K1. And look for our beer wherever you shop for your finest craft beers around Pittsburgh.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Grist House on Instagram?
Grist House on Instagram, Twitter, and X.
Yeah, everyone knows how to use the internet. Look up Grist
Instagram.
House. All right, dude. Well, I appreciate it again.
Yeah.
Everyone else that's listening, appreciate yinz as usual. Each and every week, we're back with another great guest doing great things for the city. Thank you for listening. Call you right back. There you go.
Awesome. That was great, man. Appreciate it.
I really, really great conversation.